Yeah, it's nice to see everyone here. As Emily mentioned, I'm the regional forest advisor for the Santa Cruz Mountains. So I serve Santa Cruz, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties, and I work for University of California Cooperative Extension. Today, I'm here to talk to you about first a pest that's been around in California for over a decade, and that's the invasive shothole borer. And then I'm going to talk about a new pest that was recently found, unfortunately, in Henry Cowell Redwood State Park. It's a new species of shothole borer known as the greater shothole borer, and just cover a little bit about how the county, state parks, UC Cooperative Extension, and all of our partners are responding to this new infestation. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. Um, so a small beetle and a big problem. This is a beetle that's about the size of a sesame seed, but throughout the presentation, you're going to see why it's such an issue in California. I do want to say that this is an issue that my partners and my colleagues down in Southern California have been working on for over a decade. So I do encourage you to check out ishb.org, where there's fantastic overview videos that are an hour or more in length that go into real depth into the biology and ecology of this kind of fascinating invasive pest. So I'm really not going to do the invasive shothole borers, justice today in just my few slides. So I do encourage you, if I pique your interest, to check out those resources. So what are invasive shothole borers? It's a type of ambrosia beetle. It's actually native to Southeast Asia. And as I mentioned, it's been in California for over a decade now. And it's primarily moving through urban forests, but also riparian habitats in those regions. It's thought to have originally been introduced in North America, actually through wood packaging material. There's two species, or at least for the last decade, we've thought there were two species in California, and that's the polyphagous shothole borer and then the Kuroshio shothole borer. They're almost impossible to distinguish. They're morphologically identical, and they're also functionally equivalent. So they cause the same types of damage. They have the same life cycle, and one of the only differences actually is the type of fungus that they carry with them. So invasive shothole borers are a insect disease complex. So that means that they carry around this fungus on them known as Fusarium, and that's what actually causes the damage in the tree. So it's this really interesting relationship that they have. The beetle uses the fungus as nutrition for its young and introduces into a tree, and that's what results in what we call Fusarium dieback. An image there on the right, you can see a Western sycamore, California sycamore tree with partial dieback. So as a result of the beetle introducing that fungus, it's blocked the flow of nutrients and water transport through the tree, and it's partially dying back. So it can happen at the single tree scale, or in a true infestation, you can see it across entire riparian habitats. And you can see on a penny there just how small these beetles are. So it's a male on the left and then a female on the right. One of the reasons that there's such a concern is because of their life cycle and the way that they rapidly reproduce. So they're moved through woody material that can be a branch or firewood or your green waste. And we often say that it only takes one beetle to result in an infestation, and that's because the females actually emerge from their galleries already pregnant. So if one female gets introduced into a new location, it has the ability to colonize. Their life cycle's pretty simple. The mated female already has the fungal spores that it's going to use for the nutrition of its offspring on its body. It finds a suitable host, which is often the same tree that it was actually born within. It bores into a tree and creates a gallery, and then grows up that Fusarium fungus and lays its eggs. And the eggs are they're not balanced. The majority of the eggs are females, while a few of them are males. Without having to leave the gallery, the larvae are able to feed on that fungus that's been grown by its parent, grow into adults, and then the siblings actually mate within the gallery. So you've got the entire life cycle of this beetle occurring within that small hole within a tree, which provides these beetles fantastic protection from any predators. They don't have to leave to eat, they don't have to leave to reproduce. And the first time that they're actually leaving their life, they're going on to find a new host tree. So in addition to that kind of interesting life cycle, a concern is that they reproduce really rapidly. So as I mentioned, most beetles, when they emerge as pregnant females, they actually bore into a tree that's the exact same tree that they were born in. So they're pretty lazy. They don't fly far, um, and they don't have to work too hard to find a suitable host in that fashion. But after just 5 or 6 generations, what can occur is a single tree might have, over 100,000 beetles within it. And that's what we call an amplifier tree. It's a tree that has many beetles that can result in the infestation spreading across the riparian area if it's not managed appropriately. So some of the signs and symptoms of ISHB, how we know that a tree is infested. First, you can look at the outside of the tree and see the entry holes. There's often staining like that on the top left, gumming, sugary exudate, or basically sawdust that you can observe. But what really sets the damage from this particular insect apart is the size and shape of the hole. So the hole is a perfectly round circle, and it's about the size of a ballpoint pen. So if you see these indicator symptoms in a new area, in this case, outside of Henry Cowell Redwood State Park, where we don't know that it already occurs, please reach out to me or your county agricultural commissioner. We'll come out and see if the beetle may have infested a new location. So over time, what can occur is fairly rapid mortality of riparian habitats. So there in the top is a riparian area dominated by willow, and as you can see, over just 1 year, without any management, there was a fairly rapid die-off of this riparian area. And there on the right is a single tree that's an amplifier's tree. You can see the holes all over the bole of the tree that resulted in its mortality. And then in the bottom there is a cross section, a tree cookie, where you can see that fungus taking over the healthy tissues of the tree. And over time, that's going to prevent the ability of the tree to move nutrients and water throughout its stems. There's a number of species that are susceptible to the invasive shothole borer. Many of these are not native trees because it's also it's a pest that will attack urban forests. So, but all of the susceptible native tree species that are present are starred here. So some of my favorite trees, for example, big leaf maple, the cottonwoods, California sycamore, a number of willow species, as well as valley oak, are all susceptible to the point that they can be killed by the invasive shothole borer. There's other species that can be attacked by invasive shothole borer, but they're not actually, the tissues are not suitable for their fungus to be grown up. So as a result, they can't complete their life cycle, and the beetles will move on, and the tree will not be damaged. There are preferential hosts of the beetle, and the primary host that they really seem to think is like their ice cream is box elder. So box elder is a really common urban tree in Southern California where the beetle's been moving around quite a bit. And in Henry Cowell State Park, you've got it, along Zayante Creek and along the San Lorenzo. And then California sycamore, another really common urban species in Southern California, is a preferential host as well as willows. So as I mentioned, in Southern California, Invasive shothole borers have been present for about a decade, and there's been a really successful monitoring program there, both citizen science, but also an official county-operated monitoring program. So we have a fairly good idea of which parks, which urban areas in Southern California have been affected. Unfortunately, the invasive shothole borers were found in San Jose in 2024. Um, along Coyote Creek, and they're predominantly attacking sycamore in that area. How it got up to San Jose, we don't know, of course, but it was likely to be wood waste or yard waste that was moved from Southern California northward. So that's ISHB in general. The two particular species that we knew have been present in California for the last decade. Unfortunately, in Felton, it's a little bit different story. So now I'm going to move on to the Felton infestation. So back in September of 2024, an arborist was walking along the Zayante Trail in Henry Cowell Redwood State Park, and he looked up and he saw some of the characteristic signs of invasive shothole borer. He'd actually been in San Jose just a few weeks before at a training because of their detection there um, to show the indicator symptoms. And so he looked up, saw, and he said, you know, that looks a lot like invasive shothole borer. Took some photos, took some beetle samples, sent them off to my colleague down in Southern California, and she reached out to me and confirmed that you know, it was likely that invasive shothole borer was present in Henry Cowell Redwood State Park. So I went out with one of the worldwide experts of ISHB to Henry Cowell, and you know we were looking around, looking at the potential impacts, and I could tell that she was not, you know, she thought something was a little fishy. So something that was noticed is that the holes that were the entry holes, they were larger than the tip of a ballpoint pen, so you could almost fit the entire metal piece of the ballpoint pen into the hole. So that was indicative that it might be a different species that we hadn't dealt with in California in the past. So we sent some tissue samples off to the CDFA as well as some beetles. And with a little bit of time, there was confirmation that the invasive shothole borers present in Henry Cowell Redwood State Park were not just novel to Santa Cruz County. They were novel to California, and not just California, but the entire west coast of the United States. So the beetle had never been seen anywhere on the west coast. It had been found in the southwestern portion of the United States in the past. So this new species is called Ulysses interjectus. It's about twice the size of the other two shothole borers that are present in California, and it also is associated with a different type of Fusarium fungus, so Fusarium floridum. We rapidly put together this fact sheet that goes over some of the history and information, the early information that we have about the greater shothole borer. That's available at ishb.org once again. So what's the difference? It's a larger beetle, about twice the size. There's a comparison of the females on a penny there on the left. With that said, it's got a very similar life cycle, or actually the same life cycle that I went over before. It harbors a different Fusarium fungus and has larger entry holes, but the indicator symptoms and the effects of the Fusarium on our native tree species seem to be the same. So you see the staining, the frass, the sugary exudate, and then the resulting dieback that occurs over time as a result of these beetles. So now, unfortunately, you know, we've got invasive shothole borers throughout much of Southern California. We've got invasive shothole borers in San Jose, and we now have a new species in Santa Cruz County. The real unfortunate thing is that just because we have this new species in Santa Cruz, it doesn't mean that our forests aren't susceptible to the other two species that are present in Southern California and in San Jose. So our riparian habitats may in the future, you know, be susceptible to PSHB or KSHB in addition to the greater shothole borer. Now that the shothole borer has been located in Northern California, There's been a significant increase in the efforts to conduct monitoring throughout the region, including in Santa Cruz County, San Mateo County, Santa Clara, in an effort to find new infestations really rapidly and manage them however we can. So we're still learning a lot about the greater Shothole borer. Felton's really kind of ground zero for this when it comes to management and research of the novel pest. With that said, my colleagues have been working for over a decade down in Southern California on best practices for managing the smaller beetle. And because it has a very similar life cycle and it seems to be attacking similar habitats, we can apply a lot of the lessons that we know from those two species in Southern California up here for monitoring and management. So we're not starting just with a blank slate. Unfortunately, we don't know how greater Shothole borer got to Felton. It seems like kind of a strange place for it to be introduced. We don't know how rapidly it spreads or kills trees. And we don't know the exact range of tree species that it might attack. So we have a really good idea of the exact species that will be attacked by the other two Shothole borers, but there just hasn't been enough time and there just hasn't been enough research for us to be able to say which host trees are going to be most suitable for this new Shothole borer. We do know those that it'll attack, but most readily in the site that it's at, but where it could attack in the future, we don't know. And then we also don't know the exact distribution of the beetle in Santa Cruz County either. Because it's such a new pest and such a new outbreak, we're just starting to evaluate how widespread it might be. So here's that same tree species list. The area in Felton that's infested is by and large box elder is the primary species being attacked. That's the only tree species that we've seen amplifier trees, so hundreds or thousands of holes on a specific tree or an individual tree. There's also been some other species that have been attacked, California sycamore, willow, coast live oak, but that's mostly superficial attacks. So you're seeing 1, 2, 3 holes, and we're going to have to monitor those extensively in the future to see if it might take hold on those species as well. For me, in Henry Cowell Redwood State Park, one of the great concerns is western sycamore. It's right within that same riparian habitat, and those are some of the largest western sycamores present in the world. So we'll have to monitor that really closely. So now I just want to provide a little bit of information on the groups and how we can manage this and the collaborations that are present in an effort to manage this infestation, and also provide a little bit of information on how you might be able to help. So in our region, we're really lucky that we have a really active natural resource management community. And just in a few months, we got this consortium of natural resource management groups that are all interested in trying to approach this issue as rapidly as we can. So these groups have all collaborated to, start a monitoring, trapping, and mapping program, think about ways that we can manage and respond. UC Davis and UC Cooperative Extension are starting some research collaborations. And then we're conducting a lot of outreach and education in an effort to prevent the spread of the beetle across additional areas of California. You generally approach a beetle infestation in this way by finding the infestations early. We're a little bit late, unfortunately, in Felton. It seems like the beetle has likely been there for a number of years. But that's going to be our approach moving forward, is we're going to be trying to do as much monitoring as we can to ensure that if the beetle does move, that we find it early and we manage it appropriately. We're taking actions and seeking funding to locate severely affected trees and manage them in the Felton region. And then, you want to prevent further spread through outreach and awareness, providing best practices to arborists and residents in the region that's affected so that they're not, for example, putting it into their green waste and having it hauled down to the landfill. could be a huge vector. So the first step we're taking is determining the extent of the infestation. The area that the beetle was found was right near Graham Hill Road there at the entrance to the Zayante Trail. We've since found it up in Felton Covered Bridge County Park, as well as in the Safeway parking lot, and it extends down to the main entrance of the park as well. The real epicenter seems to be up there near Graham Hill Road, and it's slowly spread over time. So we're going through this area, mapping trees that are most heavily infested, and considering how we should manage them next. So we'll have technicians out for the county agricultural commissioner will have technicians out for much of the summer, going from tree to tree and inspecting them and mapping those trees that are most severely infested. And we consider trees that have over 150 entry holes and where dieback has already started to occur to be severely infested and a candidate for future management. In addition to looking at just the active infestation, we'll also be looking to see where the beetle may be in other areas of our region. So we're setting up a trapping program and a monitoring program throughout the Santa Cruz Mountains region, and that's facilitated primarily by the county agricultural commissioner. A sticky trap where insects are attracted to, they fly into it, and you can see whether the presence of the beetle is there. The approach that we're considering taking is putting these traps in areas like landfills, wood waste facilities, areas where lots of wood is chipped and left behind, as well as areas where we know that there's a lot of susceptible hosts. So this here is a map of the distribution of box elder in Santa Cruz County, the black circles being individual trees and the red polygons being dominated by box elder. So we'll put traps in those regions and try to monitor them closely and catch future infestations in these areas early. The one concern that we have in Santa Cruz is the potential for it to get down into our urban parks. So because we have a distribution of box elder and other susceptible host trees going from Henry Cowell Redwood State Park down into Santa Cruz, there's potential for it to spread into that region. So we'll be doing a lot of monitoring in our urban areas as well, because parks are areas where trees are often more stressed than in their natural environment, making them a little bit more susceptible. And they're also really difficult to replace and can be hazardous to human health as well. So we want to try to prevent any infestation from occurring in our urban habitats before they start. So how do you manage this insect? Unfortunately, it's not a easy task. So we currently advise the same management best practices for the greater Shothole Borer as the other two species. I'm just going to put it out there that it's highly unlikely that the species will be eradicated or completely, removed from our systems. But we still have the ability to contain it, prevent the spread, and lessen the impacts. And that's done by removing specific amplifier trees. That's why our monitoring efforts are so centered around finding these amplifier trees. So when those are mapped and located, given the resources that you have and your management objectives, you start to remove individual trees that are highly infested, and then you chip them into very small chips and either leave them on site or burn them in some other way, or remove them in some other way. So the most effective methods that are used in urban environments are typically chipping them really small and then solarizing, composting, or burning. Unfortunately, in our riparian systems, we don't have the luxury of being able to access sites with chippers in many cases. So the best that you can do is get them to a chipper as close to the area that you can, and then chip it and leave it on site. But it's not going to be feasible to solarize or compost them in some areas. In our urban parks, it's a lot simpler. You also need to remove or grind the stump, and that's because the beetles can actually take hold in the stump as well. So it's not good enough just removing the tree. You also have to grind the stump. So in the riparian areas, probably the most feasible management strategy is to find those amplifier trees, chip them, and leave those chips on site. You're going to kill, 98% of the beetles or more, and significantly reduce that population of beetles that are present in those amplifier trees. Once again, it's a lazy beetle, so it doesn't want to move from tree to tree. It wants to stay on that one host tree as long as it can farm that fungus. So we think that the spread is fairly slow. So if we can really address those amplifier trees, we're going to have success in reducing the population most rapidly. Some things you folks can help with is preventing the spread, ensuring folks know that it's present. We really don't want to move infested firewood out of Felton in the residential areas that are affected, in the campgrounds. We also don't want to put infested material in our green waste bins. So any trees that have been attacked, pruned, and removed in folks' yards, or through management at the parks, we don't want to be putting those in the green waste and potentially spreading those further. And then thinking about our urban environments, it's really important that we properly manage our trees, that they're well watered, that they're well taken care of, because it's trees that aren't healthy are the most susceptible to attack by invasive shothole borers. So wherever we can in our urban systems, we want to take good care of our trees. Another way that you can help is through our iNaturalist monitoring program. So this is a program that was started by my colleague Bea Nobua-Behrman down in Southern California. It's a way that we can ocularly or visually monitor for the presence of the three shothole borer species in areas that we might not be able to put traps, because it's just not logistically feasible to put traps everywhere that the beetle might be. So I really encourage you all to start by taking the free 1 hour extension training that's available at that link, and also available on ishb.org. And then coming up later in the spring, we're going to be having an online identification training, and then a subsequent in-person training to get folks involved to become UC trained invasive shothole borer monitors. And my colleague has found that, by completing these trainings, because there's so many different other insects that can cause damage to our native trees that might not be invasive shothole borer, these trainings are required. And as a result, the volunteers in Southern California have been able to identify ISHB with 96% accuracy over time. So a really great data set that they've come up with through these volunteers. So with that, I just want to say that thank you, of course, to all my colleagues. All of these materials came from folks that have been working on this for a lot longer than me. I actually wasn't even aware of ISHB until about August of last year. So this is all really rapidly developed. All kinds of great materials available on ishb.org, and you can follow the social channels. The YouTube video, the YouTube channel has so many great videos with great information as well. So with that, I want to thank everyone, and I'm happy to take questions.